When I was younger, I was put out of my house. When I was 15, my parents put me on the streets and told me to get out because I was gay, and that was a legal age back then that they could put me out without getting in trouble. So for my 15th birthday, I woke up with them having myself packed and being put out on the streets. And I turned to drugs, prostitution, and living on the streets.
Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from this nightmare? Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from this nightmare? Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow?
Family conflict over a youth adult's sexual orientation or gender identity is a significant factor that leads to homelessness.
20 to 40% of homeless young adults identify as LGBTQ.
Homeless LGBT young adults are more likely to experience depression, delinquency, addiction, risky and exploitative sexual behavior.
62% of homeless gay and transgender youth attempt suicide.
There's a variety of challenges that make them particularly vulnerable to homelessness, and unfortunately being alienated from their families occurs more than others. During young adulthood, someone who is of the LGBT community may find it difficult to come out to their families. Whenever they do decide to come out, this may cause friction between the individual and family. Most LGBTQ young adults become homeless by being thrown out of their homes or running away. Family issues with this population of young adults may hinder the individual from reaching a level of belongingness and love needs throughout middle adulthood. Theoretically, they may not reach needs past safety in Maslow's hierarchy system because life becomes solely on survival. More than 50% of young adults who are enrolled in the Lost and Found program are African Americans. Traditionally, being gay is considered a way of sinning within Black churches. Harsh criticism and stigmatization of homosexuality have been acceptable practices within sermons in many Black churches.
So for my 18th birthday, I went home to see my parents because my aunt had called me and said that my father was in failing health. So I went home to see my family, and my father passed away. My father had a heart attack. He hugged me. It was Christmas Eve. He hugged me. He said, "I love you. I'm really glad you came home." And he had a heart attack and died. Yeah, it was very disturbing. The whole family says that he was holding on just long enough to see me. He had a heart attack and died, and I came back to Atlanta and got more high because I couldn't deal with the feelings and the emotions.
Early adulthood is a time when this group is stabilizing in physical growth. Lack of food, nutrition, shelter, and partaking in risky behavior in order to meet basic needs may hinder normal growth during this period. Homeless young adults are exposed to multiple risk factors for HIV infection. Half of HIV infections occur before 25 years of age. An estimated 1/3 of young adults are physically abused by a family member. 50% of homeless young adults are physically assaulted in housing programs. LGBT young adults who are physically assaulted are more likely to attempt suicide, more likely to use drugs and alcohol, more likely to engage in high-risk sexual activity, increasing the likelihood of contracting HIV and STDs. They also perform worse in school and are less likely to go on to college than those who are not abused. In regards to a homeless transgendered individual, it is difficult to obtain employment if your license says Michael but you go by Monique. Lacking the appropriate funds to keep up with exterior appearance can be crucial in job seeking. Most transgender girls are forced into prostitution in order to obtain income. Society as a whole has yet to wrap its head around transgendered identity, and on a national level it shows through housing programs, lack of accommodation for a private shower in young adult shelters, a lack of steady employment throughout younger adulthood can affect someone's stability in middle adulthood and can cause these individuals to turn to illegal activities in order to survive.
For many of us, in November, our minds turn towards plans for Thanksgiving, and in December, our mind turns towards Christmas, a holiday likely spent at home, surrounded by family. This scenario is far from the reality of many homeless LGBTQ young adults and older adults. 46% run away from home because of family rejection. 43% are forced out by parents because of sexual orientation or gender identity. 32% are physically, emotionally, or sexually abused at home, and 14% are financially or emotionally neglected by their family. In fact, 1 in 5 transgender people in their 30s report have been homeless at some point in their lives. Among homeless transgender older adults, 55% have reported being harassed by shelter staff, 29% have reported turned away by shelter because of their identity, and 22% have reported being sexually assaulted by residents or staff. 58% of lesbian, gay, or bisexual older adults reported having been sexually victimized, compared with 33% of heterosexual homeless adults. Homeless LGBTQ lack safety and physiological needs. They may be less accepted in shelters, programs, and foster homes. LGBTQ homeless adults are vulnerable to health and psychological problems that are heterosexual youths. Many are victims of parental physical abuse, are substance abusers, and have both mental and general physical health problems. Homeless young adults are vulnerable to victimization, including robbery, rape, and assault. High rates of externalizing and internalizing problems, including psychosis, have been found among this population.
We are utilizing both the family systems theory and Maslow's hierarchy of needs theoretical frameworks to assess our social issue of LGBT homeless young and middle adults. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is based on the ideas that humans have multiple needs and that they will actively work toward meeting their needs to maintain stability in their level of functioning. LGBT homeless young adults are focused primarily on addressing fundamental needs before they can move up in the hierarchy to address higher needs. This has an everlasting effect on their middle adulthood development. The family systems theory explains that the family consists of interrelated parts, each impacting the other and contributing to the growth or damage of the other. Further, the family is always changing, self-organizing, and adapting to its members and the outside environment. The family system within the LGBT homeless young adult's life can be broken because the family sometimes does not agree with their sexual orientation. LGBT homeless young adults are more likely than their heterosexual counterparts to trade sex with a stranger, have more than 10 sexual partners who are strangers, have sex with a stranger who uses drugs, have anal sex with a stranger, have unprotected sex with a stranger, and have sex with a stranger after using drugs. Homeless transgender young adults transitioning to the gender with which they identify frequently face health complications from unmonitored hormone and silicone injections obtained from street suppliers. The association between homelessness and psychiatric systems is mediated by stressful life events, negative social relationships, and lack of social support from friends. Becoming homeless is related to future depressive symptoms, anxiety symptoms, disorderly conduct, and substance use disorders.
Social workers can combat social issues in this population by developing government agencies that regulate homeless young to middle adult housing programs, diminish violence against occupants, develop regulations that require all bathing facilities to provide individual privacy and impose low maximum limits on the occupancy capacity at which these programs operate. They also need to establish regulations that include non-discrimination policies, mandated LGBT sensitivity training, and policies that promote housing specifically for homeless LGBT, young, and middle adults. The Salvation Army is known to be religiously based, but there has been progression here in Atlanta. The Salvation Army now has specific beds reserved for the LGBT homeless young adults.
Our interviewee encompasses the essence of resiliency. As he grew into middle adulthood, we can assess that there was an increase in cognitive performance because new information is being linked with past experiences. He is taking his past experience with being a homeless LGBT young adult and applying it to helping others in that same situation.
Have done charity work and outreach work and have tried to figure out where I want my life to go since I did all this stuff when I was in my 20s, and I felt like a good friend of mine became a social worker, and he has a same past as me and really felt like he can connect with people more. He really can be on that level and understand where they're coming from. And I felt like it's a great way for me to give back and help out.